thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to Meet the Candidates Night, sponsored by the district's PTOs. My name is Susan Downey. In addition to being a fourth grade teacher and PTO co-president at Austin Road Elementary School, I will serve as moderator for our forum tonight. There are 6 candidates running for 3 open positions. Christopher Harrigan, Jonathan Schneider, Adam Savino, Fernando Martinez, Mark Caden, and Roger Duran. So that this evening can run as smoothly as possible and in a timely fashion, several members of the PTO President Council will assist in managing the time for tonight's questions and answer session. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to share an opening statement. Following the completion of opening statements, each candidate will be asked 6 questions, all of which were submitted by members of the community. The same 6 questions will be asked of each candidate. Once all of the questions have been asked and answered, each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to share a closing statement. This closing statement gives each candidate a final opportunity to speak solely on his behalf. We ask that everyone in attendance respect the process that will be followed throughout the evening. We are now ready to begin. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Harrigan, you're up first for your 2-minute introduction. Opening statement.
How's that? Can you hear me? So first off, I wanted to thank the PTO for putting this event together. My name is Chris Harrigan. I'm running for the Mahopac School Board. I have a 6th grader in the district, and I've tried to be involved as possible in this town since moving here in 2012. I've been a volunteer firefighter and EMT since 2013 with the Mahopac Falls Fire Department, and I have coached many seasons of MSA sports. It's been a rough few years for our kids, and I've been trying since February of last year to help them return to normal. I've spent this year reaching out to the community, organizing rallies, petitions, and email campaigns, and I've given numerous interviews and statements to local media outlets, all with the goal of advocating for our students. Last February, when we were told by the district there was no way to get the schools fully reopened, I networked with other parents in the district, county, and across New York State to advocate for our children. So many times we were told by the district and elected officials that there's nothing I could do or it's out of my hands. We did not stop fighting. So many teachers and parents wanted the schools fully open, so we couldn't just give up the fight. Right? What type of example would that set for our children? So we pressed on, and we got our schools reopened fully. I know the time and effort that myself and many other parents in this district put into making that happen, and I'm forever grateful to them for their support. I would like to see, going forward, more transparency in the district, and I'd like to increase outreach to the community to see how they feel about important issues. As a member of the board, I would also like to strengthen our academic and vocational programs. Together, parents, teachers, and students, we can all work together for the success of our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schneider, you're up next with your opening statement.
Thank you so much. That was well timed. You hit that right on the mark. My name is Jonathan Schneider. I've been a member of the community since I was born and raised here, graduated high school. I swore I would never come back to this small town, but after seeing the world, joining the Marines, being in the NYPD for a while, and looking to start my own family, it was a great community to come back to. I've been back in town since 2003 after returning from Iraq, and since then I've been heavily involved in the business community. I've been heavily involved with not-for-profits throughout the area. I served 8 years on the town board. I've seen municipal finance, I've seen large budgets, I've seen union contracts. I just wanted to refocus myself and my priorities back towards my kids. And the more that I get involved with my children and their friends and the families, I start to see that there's definitely room for improvement. Not that it's a bad system, but there's definitely areas that we can improve upon. One thing that I've definitely been active on trying to get, and I would also do the same if I get on the board, even if I don't get on the board, I want to see our students all get some basic life skills classes, some basic financial classes. 11th and 12th grade, I have interns that come in every year, and And we have to go over what happens with your pay stub. How do you balance a checkbook? What's a student loan? What's a mortgage? These are the basic skills that I think we need to start helping our children get. Everyone should have this. And in addition, I think we need to expand upon what we have for not only the educational avenues, but the extracurricular avenues that afford the opportunity for our children, not just at the high school level, but throughout middle school and the elementary schools as well. Good foundation is what we need, and we really need to concentrate on delivering the best service for our children, and in turn, it will be the best service for our community. So I hope everyone gets out there May 17th. I hope I have your vote, and I am always available for any questions, comments, or concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zavino, you're up next with an opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the PTO for putting this together, and thank you for everyone that's in attendance and those that are watching us remotely. My name is Adam Savino. I'm running for re-election for a seat on the Manhattan Central School Board of Education. I've truly enjoyed my involvement with the Board of Education for the last 3 years. Although we have gone through the utmost challenging and rewarding times, I always felt that we went through them together. I grew up here in Manhattan, and I was a parent. My wife and I are raising our children in this wonderful community. They're living through the many great memories I have endured, making their own. There's nothing like it. There's nothing that more fulfilling. I think I have dedicated a good amount of my adult years volunteering in this wholesome and thriving community. I'm a 28-year volunteer firefighter. I've been served as chief officer for 6 of those years, 5 years as commissioner, and 1 as chairman. I've also been a technical operations supervisor for Altice for the past 12 years, bringing with me managerial and leadership experience. As a trustee on the school board, I will continue to serve the community and continue to be a voice for all of you as I advocate for the education of all children in our community to ensure every child has the tools, resources, and support available to them to achieve success. The school board is your voice, and we must be responsive and receptive. Parents, staff, students, along with everyone in the community. I welcome and encourage an open dialogue and want input from all groups. All facts ought to be gathered before decisions can be made. Board decisions should always be made to benefit our children in the best possible way when it comes to their education, safety, and social emotional well-being. Board members are trustees of the community that elects them. As a trustee, my goal is to be accessible, approachable, and to be collaborative with all the members of the community and all the district staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, you are up next with your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this event. I joined the Air Force right out of high school, and I served 4 years in active duty. I gained invaluable technical life lessons through these years. I deployed overseas as a defense contractor, and I served in Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, from 04 to 05. Eventually got married, started a family, and that's what brought us to Mayor Pack. Reasons we chose Mayor Pack was the community, the school's reputation, and affordability. We've lived here for close to 15 years, and we've forged some lifelong friendships. Our 2 children have benefited greatly from being part of this district and the larger community. My wife and I have served the community in many ways. I'm actually as a soccer coach for a while, many years on the board of Lakeland PTO. I've been in information technology as a civilian for over 20 years with the same company for the last 15. I'm a member of the Hispanic and Veteran Employee Resource Groups. These groups provide a bridge from the employees to the company's policy director. I'm also in the Air Force Reserves, and I continue to receive the latest cyber advances. I'm able to use this in my civilian job and my civilian job in the Air Force Reserves. So I recognize that as the district integrates more technology into our schools, we have a great advantage academically, but there's also a lot of potential vulnerabilities as students use Chromebooks and are part of virtual classrooms and in their schools and in their homes. I know the district has a plan in place, but I believe I can absolutely be an asset and help to fortify our cyber posture. My vision, should I be elected to the school board, is to apply my experience and expertise in cybersecurity. My priorities will also be to make responsible fiscal decisions, collaborate with the board and the community in a productive and professional manner, provide an environment where all students and faculty feel valued, appreciated, and supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kading, we're up next with your opening statement.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Cady. I've been a Mahopac resident since approximately 2003. I have 3 children in the school district. One's a senior, one a sophomore, and another one in 7th grade. And I moved to Mahopac because I thought it was a great community. I had some friends that lived there. And I said, hey, I'm going to try Mahopac, and I liked it a lot. I'm originally from Chicago, so I started out as a gang officer in Chicago, kind of a rough area. And then I came to New York, and I've been a DA agent for 24 years here. And I primarily investigate narcotics crimes, specifically targeting heroin and fentanyl distribution, so I'm an expert in that, and wiretapping and things like that. And then you say to yourself, well, you know, why does this guy want to be a board of education and work on the board of education? It's because, you know, I see what's out in the world, and it kind of makes me nervous about what's happening today, and the things that are coming down from Albany kind of frighten me to some degree. You know, I'm a guy that doesn't get frightened very easily, and I think it's very important that we stick with education, core academics like science, history, and math, and really get our kids, you know, the tools they need in this competitive world. You know, we're in a global market where kids need to be prepared for life. And I think that we need to simplify and just teach the kids what they need to learn so they are prepared for life. With that said, I hope I get your support for the school board. I'm a practical person with integrity. I'll always be open for questions and ideas, and I think to have a consensus from the community is important because I think a lot of times, you know, we need people's input so that we know how to make proper decisions. And I'll be that kind of a leader on the school board if elected. So thank you. And, go Mahopac.
Thank you. Mr. Duran, you're up next with your opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roger Duran. I've been a Mahopac resident for 20 years. I'm married to a very supportive wife, Carolyn, for 24 years. I have 3 wonderful kids, one in the middle school, one still in high school. My oldest one has graduated from Mahopac High School and is now attending Stony Brook University studying medicine. I had the pleasure to be a coach here for my kids in MSA. I coach baseball, soccer, basketball, and softball. Even got to play in the men's softball league for a number of years. I'm currently coaching both in-house and travel U12 softball teams. My wife and I were born and raised in Yonkers, and we came to Mahopac because we're looking for quality schools and a big backyard for our kids. I have an MBA from Mercy College, and my career has been centered on finance for the last 15 years, working for companies like E-Trade and Genpact, focusing on budgets and analysis. My current position with Genpact has me overseeing a $70 million international portfolio for the infrastructure and logistics team. My current position needs key skills. Those skills I need are communication, decision making, being a team player, staying organized, and being a leader for the group. As I have multiple stakeholders in my job, I need to have the fortitude to not only answer tough questions, but make sure the answers make sense. There are 2 reasons why I'm running for the school board. First is for the students. I would like to see the kids get back to normal after dealing with COVID after 2 years. And I think we can make that happen by listening to both the students and their parents to find out what issues they're dealing with. At the same time, I want to make sure we're giving the freedom to the teachers to teach, because they're the ones with the expertise to teach our kids and get them to that next level of their education. A second reason is to see if we can dig deeper into our budget, into the things that we can control. I think if we can have discussions, we can do things in order to stay within our given budget. By having discussions, we can make sure we're spending the money at the right time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. That concludes our opening statement session. We are now going to start with our first question. Mr. Harrigan, you're up first. Question 1. The primary responsibility of the Mahopac Central School District is to provide a safe learning environment for each and every child. As a board trustee, how would you support diversity, equity, and inclusion for all students?
Well, I know that how Albany and New York State define diversity, equity, inclusion differs from what is actually put into practice. So I am very respective of, we need to have an inclusive environment for the students. They need to feel safe. But I also know, I'm going to read the quote from DEI, if that's the same DEI we're talking about from Albany. I'm just going to quote it here, it's just easier. It says the Board of Regents believes that effective DEI policies must consider the entirety of the schooling process and expects districts to include the following elements in their policies. There's a lot, I'm just going to put, as part of this work, districts should consider specifically acknowledging the role that racism and bigotry have played and continue to play in the American story. I don't think it's appropriate to teach that in schools. I'm sorry. I don't think that to teach kids that there is an oppressor class and a victim class is appropriate in our schools. And I don't know what application it would have outside of a history class, right? We want to get back to the basics. Are we going to teach diversity, equity, and inclusion? Is that going to go above science or math? Where is that going to be ranked in the priorities? That our kids are probably a year behind in their education. So if that's the DEI we're talking about, I don't think that should be involved in our schools. I think effective education can take place without acknowledging the role that racism and bigotry have taken and continue to play in the American story. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schneider, same question. I'm going to repeat it for you. The primary responsibility of the Mahopac Central School District is to provide a safe learning environment for each and every child. As a board trustee, how would you support diversity, equity, and inclusion for all students?
I think it is a great opening comment in relation to providing a safe environment for all children to be afforded a great education. And I think the most important word that we can really teach our kids would be respect. And that's respect for everybody, no matter what someone looks like, someone's appearance, someone's background. We treat everyone with kindness. I speak this way with my children, I speak this way with my friends. I definitely have a feeling that working on a divisive nature makes it more difficult to get progress, but working on a common ground nature of all human beings is one of the best ways for us to talk about experience, to talk about life, to talk about history. As Christopher said, history is a great way for us to learn. And to be able to teach not only American history, but the history of the world. If we were to really go back and start teaching from the beginning of time, I tell my friends, when they ask me about CRT especially, I say, look, let's teach critical human theory. Let's talk about the beginning of time, from Cain and Abel, how one had and the other had not. Let's talk about how throughout the history of mankind, we have acted like a virus that means to destroy one another based on whether it's a look, an ideology, or a region. And the more that we start to understand that we do have this inherently in our DNA, I believe that that's when we can begin to have more progressive discussions that help to allow everyone to feel accepted and to feel safe. And again, it starts with respect. I don't think it starts with division and separation. I think it starts with respect of each other as fellow humans. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Savino, same question. The primary responsibility of the Mahopac Central School District is to provide a safe learning environment for each and every child. As a board trustee, how would you support diversity, equity, and inclusion for all students?
It's an excellent question. It's a very, very charged issue right now. First off, we have to peel back the layers of what is DEI. We should be teaching how to think, not what to think. That's number one. There are some things that there's some misconceptions about DEI. What is diversity? What is equity? What is inclusion? To summarize, diversity is basically what it's happening. We have diverse students in our district as a whole. Equity is making sure that every student, regardless of race, creed, religion, sexual preference, sexual orientation, whatever it is, has access to the same education as everyone, which all goes into the inclusion part. There's a lot of misconceptions, as it was mentioned before, DEI is not CRT. Critical race theory has no business being in a K-12 school. Okay? It should be, that's something that is a college course, what happened, doesn't belong here. DEI gets pushed down from Albany. We sit down with all the stakeholders, parents, teachers, they're the educators that we trust for our children. We sit down and have the conversations of what is appropriate for our community. Our community is not the same as every community. So all the information from all the stakeholders is an invaluable asset to making that decision and how we should support it and how we should proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, same question. The primary responsibility of the Mahopac Central School District is to provide a safe learning environment for each and every child. As a board trustee, how would you support diversity, equity, and inclusion for all students?
Thank you. So far, we've been great statements from the other members, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of the same thoughts. Maybe I agree or disagree. But the biggest thing is a lot of our programs in high schools, there's a lot of groups. And so the biggest point for us as a school board is to be able to have the children have a voice, parents have a voice, teachers have a voice. Everybody has a voice and able to bring it to the table and be able to speak in a respectful and in a manner that everybody's heard. And everybody can bring, so in my company, we have our employee resource groups. So that is a way for Hispanics, veterans, women, everybody is able to be heard and able to bring their issues, and whether it's an issue that can be resolved, should be resolved, and it's the first time around, the second time around, there's a way to have issues brought up and discussed and handled. So I think, like other members have said, respectfully and diplomatically be able to come in, discuss it, and be everybody treated as a human being. So that's, I think, the job of the school board is to handle matters in a manner that everybody can be respected and move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Caden, same question. The primary responsibility of the Mahopac Central School District is to provide a safe learning environment for each and every child. As a board trustee, how would you support diversity, equity, and the inclusion for all students?
Well, I think as a community, we got to think about this. Did this question even be asked, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? I think everyone in this room would say, we all want our kids to be safe, right? We want diversity, we want different people, Hispanic, Black, white, Asian, everybody living together. Equity, something that's pretty much unattainable. You know, maybe Mr. Harrigan on the end there is a little smarter than Mark Cady. We might go to the same school, but the end process isn't the same. You know, maybe Mark doesn't study as much. He doesn't get as far. So equity, I would say equality of opportunity. You want to give all kids the opportunity to succeed. And equity is an unattainable thing. And remember, CRT, DEI is just a softened version of CRT. This is a Marxist idea that we have to be really, that's what I talk about when I gave my opening statement. Like, this is the kind of stuff that frightens me. I mean, we live in America, you guys. We have to be people that are concerned about these ideologies that are being taught in our schools. I'm not saying that the Mahopac School District does this. I hope that they never do. But my point is, most of our teachers are wonderful people. I know a lot of our teachers. But the point is, when these issues and these policies come down from Albany, and then our school board says, well, there's not much we can do when it comes down from Albany, that's a problem, you guys. That's a major problem. And you better be frightened by it, because it's coming. It's already happening in New Jersey. It's already happening on the West Coast. I mean, it's not good. And our kids are suffering. Our kids are not going to be able to survive in America because of Marxist ideas. We're Americans. We need to love America. We need to fight for America, and we need to teach our kids what they need to learn so they're ready. And DEI, sorry, not for me. I'm not that guy. But I will say, even in inclusion, of course, we all should be included. We should always be kind and nice to all.
Thank you. Mr. Durant, same question. The primary responsibility of the Mahopac Central School District is to provide a safe learning environment for each and every child. As a board trustee, how would you support diversity, equity, and inclusion for all students?
So, since I'm a parent, I guess I'm very lucky. I'm able to lean on my kids. They're one in the middle school, one in the high school. Find out what they're doing, how they're getting along, how their peers are getting along. So talking to them on a daily basis, trying to understand their friends, find out what's going on in their life, is giving me insight of what's going on. If I join a board, I would like to continue that. I'd like to have open door policies to anybody that feels like they're not being included or there's something wrong that's going on. I want to hear those things because as a parent, I want to make sure everyone's included. That it's a fair territory for everybody to learn and listen and be included. Promote sports. This is where a lot of kids come together. They become friends over the years doing sports. So anything that we can do to get the kids together to become a community, that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving on to question number 2. Mr. Schneider, you'll be starting off. Question number 2. What do you think is the biggest challenge or roadblock facing our school district, and how would you deal with that challenge?
The biggest challenge facing our school district, I think, there are a lot of people who would say that it's the taxes that we pay, but I don't think it's that. I think it's what we have coming down from directives in Albany, coming from the United States Department of Education. I think that there is a need for people to be able to speak freely about what their beliefs are and how they believe that schools should be taught to their children. I think public education is a great system. I think that we have great team players that are involved in it. I think what we really need to do is be able to concentrate on what we feel is going to be the most appropriate thing for our children in our school district. While I love the idea that we have a large, grandiose oversight that helps to push different educational priorities through, I think at the same time we continuously see changes coming from the federal level and the state level with how we're supposed to administer this education, all the way from kindergarten up through graduation. So I think us being able to have a voice, being able to be listened to, and being able to be told why things may be done one way, why they may not be done another, and at least to have the ability to speak up, voice our concerns, and try to ensure that every child gets the opportunity that they should have for what we as a community feel is going to be the most appropriate thing for our children. And that community is not only the families, it's the teachers, it's the faculty, all the way from the newest custodian to the most senior teacher. We should be open and willing to listen to viewpoints that may be different from ours, as long as we keep the number one priority being our children and the education that they can attain through our school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Savino, same question. What do you think is the biggest challenge or roadblock facing our school district, and how would you deal with that challenge?
So it's a multifaceted question. Right now, one of the biggest challenges is overcoming 2 years of lost education and social emotional well-being in school. We lost a lot during COVID. We need to get back to we need to get the kids caught up to where they were to make sure they're ready for the future. Number 2, there's a bunch of issues being forced down, as Candace mentioned, from Albany. We need to take them, dissect them, and act on them as a community. Have the conversations, talk to the parents, talk to the community, talk to the kids, talk to the teachers. We need to work together to get through these issues. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take some time, but working together we can do that. The other, I think I'm going to go back to the COVID portion of it. While we had a lot of advances during that time in technology, somewhat we've become reliant on them. We need to reevaluate that and make it more beneficial for our use as well. It's more of an enhancement than a necessity. So I think that's all I have for that.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, same question. What do you think is the biggest challenge or roadblock facing our school district, and how would you deal with that challenge?
So, what I see every day is cyber. And although it's unseen, it may be understood in a community. But I see it not only in the military, how we fought wars. It went from fighting with tanks, and now it's all cyber. And in the same way, my civilian job is hit with ransomware, privacy, data. So the school district has to be secure. Our children's information, our parents' information, images of our children online. There's a lot of just our security and our data. Our district has to be in a place where we have to invest and be prepared so that if an incident happens, we know how to respond. So I would love to be able to share and to lend not only what I do on my civilian side, but also what I continue to do in the military to make sure that something like this doesn't surprise us and doesn't happen, as well as the training, put our children in a position to compete with all of our other adversaries in the new jobs that are out there, which is coding, which is anything to do with cyber. Those are a lot of new jobs that are out there. So yes, I agree. Our existing jobs are very important, but also there's a lot of new jobs that are every single technology that's existing. A lot of new curriculum should be created. So that's for me is the biggest challenge.
Thank you. Mr. Koenig, same question. What do you think is the biggest challenge or roadblock facing our school district, and how would you deal with that challenge?
Well, I think there's a lot of challenges, but the biggest challenge, probably Bill Harris telling you. I think the biggest challenge we have here in our community is, I've been to a lot of board meetings lately this last year, and I noticed that there's a disconnect between the board members and the people out in the audience that want to get their input into the board. And I think that because I talk to everybody in the audience and I talk to people and they tell me that. So I thought to myself, I said, for instance, we picked a new superintendent recently, and I don't think there was much input from the community what they really wanted in picking that new superintendent. So I think the biggest challenge is kind of uniting the people out in the audience that are board members with the people that are on the board, so we know what everybody's thinking, so we come up with a good idea, so we pick the right people. Because think about it, for the last, 10 years or so, we've had, maybe seven superintendents or something close there, 6. So I think we got to do a better job with having that connection between the community and the board. And if we don't do that, I don't think we're going to be successful in our educational process. The other thing is, another huge challenge is, I'll keep harping on this all night. It's coming. There's bad things coming from Albany, everybody. It's coming. I talked to Mr. Harcum. He's our state senator. He didn't tell me the truth. He talked to the whole room and told us things that weren't true. That, it's going to be stuck in assembly. It's never going to move. It's coming. And if we're not prepared, we're in trouble. So I think those are our two biggest challenges. Getting the community together with the board and coming up with good, sound ideas, and really fighting Albany and saying, hey, this is a local issue. We want to teach our kids the way we want to teach them, so our kids in Mahopac are prepared. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Duran, same question. What do you think is the biggest challenge or roadblock facing our school district, and how would you deal with that challenge?
I think the biggest roadblock right now is communication. I think you look at communication on multiple levels. One is the budget. A lot of people out there don't understand the budget. They don't understand why there's increases, and there's not a lot of information that's really close to them that you can say, oh, now I understand the budget and why it's increasing or why we're staying flat. So communication is key. I hear from some parents that they feel like some of their school teams are left out. That's communication. Some parents feel like the classrooms aren't up to par. That's communication. We're saying that our schools aren't blue ribbons anymore. Communication. So I think that's one thing we need to tackle. We need to make sure everyone's talking, everyone's communicating with each other, finding what the issues are that we can tackle today as a school group and get that done before Albany does anything. Because I'm worried more about us. Let's get our community done. Let's get us on solid ground to get things done for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Bless you. Mr. Harrigan, same question. What do you think is the biggest challenge or roadblock facing our school district, and how would you deal with that challenge?
There we go. It's nice when you don't have to go first. You can hear everyone else's answers. I think the biggest challenge is maybe not just for our school, but our community would be the learning loss that we talked about for the past 2 years and the social aspect that we kind of lost as a community. And that's just not for the schools, but a sense of community that we lost with all the missed socials and dances and just not seeing other parents was a big deal, you know, to not have a concert to go to and just talk to other parents during that time. You really didn't get a sense of what people were going through and what the kids were going through, right? The kids were isolated. You don't know if what your son or daughter is going through is the same as what other people are because everyone was shut in. And so as far as the learning loss, I think we need the whole community to have the input, the students' input, teachers, parents on where our kids are and how far behind they are, or, you know, and that's going to affect each grade differently, right? Maybe the older kids did a little better with it. And, you know, to talk about what Roger was talking about, the sense of community that we lost. So, you know, maybe it's possible we can reach out to the community and parents and not just academics, but we can offer a club, you know, see who in the community would be willing to run a club or something like that at the school to explore those areas and interests that kids might have outside of the regular clubs that we have, just to give them a sense of community so they're not all on the video games, you know, isolated. And I just want to tag, I know I don't have much time, but that's something I was trying to foster with a few MSA coaches last summer. We got together, MSA, you know, basketball didn't have a season, so a few of the coaches, we got together and we were able to have a little outdoor season for the summer. So just to build that sense of community for those kids. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to question number 3. Mr. Savino, you will be up first. Question number 3. How will you ensure that our district will continue to improve academic programs and student performance for all learners of all ages?
First and foremost, we do have a new superintendent coming in. So we need to ensure that we support her, which in turn will support our amazing teachers that we have in the district. We need to reevaluate some of our courses from time to time. I believe Mr. Schneider brought up the financial courses. There is a big need for that. We need to up our game and bring our district to the next level. Sit with the parents, the community members, the teachers, the administrators, and come up with a plan. Our 4-year plan is up. We need to create a new one, and we need to start now. I look forward to that opportunity in creating that plan for our children and for their futures. The world is now a different place than it was many years ago. We need to, in some ways, go back to the basics, reinforce the basics, maybe look at things that we stopped doing for a while, such as cursive writing, and bring some of those things to the table. But as a community, we need to sit down and discuss these. All the stakeholders, all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, same question. How will you ensure that our district will continue to improve academic programs and student performance for all learners of all ages?
Thank you. So I think what the pandemic taught us was we were able to adapt, we were able to shift quickly, move online, and that was awesome. You know, obviously that was the job of the teachers, the parents at home, you know, the children. And so why can't our curriculum do the same thing? And so, like Mr. Savino said, is get all the stakeholders and figure out for this new 4-year plan what's new, you know, what's out there, what are the most critical, you know, classes, curriculum that is, you know, at the highest need, and go and move. And so why stay stagnant? Why not move forward? It can be done. So I look forward to contributing and bringing my experience of high tempo children have thrived in a lot of different programs, arts, music, but we can add more classes and more different type of curriculum. So that's where hopefully I can be a part of.
Thank you. Mr. Kading, same question. How will you ensure that our district will continue to improve academic programs and student performance for all learners of all ages?
I think the best way to ensure that that happens is that I think we get a parent review board. I think we should get parents involved in our kids' education. I think it's very, very important. And I know that we have tremendous teachers in our school district because, I have 2 kids in the district. And they're my little informants and they tell me what goes on in all the schools. So, and they tell me they got some really awesome teachers and they got some teachers that aren't so great. So I think that me being a school board member, because I'm a pretty bold guy, I would try to, figure out where we can improve. I'm not saying get rid of teachers that aren't doing their job or get rid of teachers that aren't the best teachers, but why not get them maybe some extra assistance from other teachers that are a little more successful so that all the teachers are teaching at a high level or at the best level they can. I think we have to improve there because if you look at our ratings in the U.S. News and World Report, I think we're 4,600 out of 17,000 schools in America, where districts right close to us in North Salem there are in the 200s, 230 or something. I think we can up our game there. Now, that's not because of, it may not be because of poor teaching, maybe because poor testing, maybe our kids don't test as well, things like that. So there are different variables. But with that said, I think it's very, very important that we have the best educational system for our kids. And I will ensure that that happens by, I think, with a parent review board. I think that would be very good working with the teachers and working with the school board. I think that would ensure that our kids are getting the best education. And we're keeping it at a local level where Albany isn't telling us what we're going to be teaching. And I think that would be best for our children.
Thank you. Mr. Duran, same question. How will you ensure that our district will continue to improve academic programs and student performance for all learners of all ages?
I'll go back to my communications. I think it's really important to open up communication with the teachers and superintendents. Push them. They're the ones with the training and expertise to bring our kids to the next level. So let's raise that bar. Let's push them to say, hey, we want to be Bloomberg in school. We want to have our kids testing high. What do we do? You have the training to show us what we can do. I think the more discussions we have with them, we can find out what we can do as a board to support them, to get them the resources they need to get us to that next level. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harrigan, same question. How will you ensure that our district will continue to improve academic programs and student performance for all learners of all ages?
So I'm going to touch on what some of the other candidates were saying, but to have a continual process where we're evaluating what skills our kids are going to need when they leave high school and they go out into the world. And, Mark talking about a parents review board, something like that. I think another good resource would be students that just recently graduated and maybe in their first or second year of college, or they're out in the world and they're working a job and they, get their input. Because what we prepared our kids for 10 years ago or 20 years ago when I left high school is radically different than what it is now. So I think as a community, I'm going to tag on what a lot of people have mentioned already, but I think we should be reaching out to those groups and getting their input. Oh, you're in your first year of college. What would you have liked to have known? Or what is a skill that you feel your peers have and you're lacking? So I think, that process should be continual. We should be, every few years refreshing that because those skills that are needed are going to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schneider, same question. How will you ensure that our district will continue to improve academic programs and student performance for all learners of all ages?
Thank you. I believe that the most important aspect that we can look into for improving our educational system is going to be Similar to what I saw at my first job in the military, I was a microcomputer repair technician. Our school had a slogan that was communication is the key to success in warfare. I've used that in life for communication is the key to success in parenting, marriage, business. The same goes for education, whether it be from the aides that work closely with our children, or it be from the teachers that really implement the curriculum at the level that they teach at. It be the administrators that take down information from the states and help us to structure what our educational system is in the schools. But at the same time, the parents need to be listened to as well. I know that we have a lot of parents that are already involved in education, whether they be teachers or administrators in other school districts. They have a lot of different expertise that's available. We have members of our community that travel the nation working inside of the field of education. So there is a wealth of knowledge that we don't seem to tap into as much as we should to bring the most opportunity to our children. So again, I want to make sure that everybody knows that my avenues of communication are open. I'm receptive to listening to questions or comments, concerns, suggestions. I talk to my players, I talk to my family, I talk to my friends that in order for us to get better, we have to be able to listen to other people's viewpoints. We have to be able to listen to the expertise that other people have, experiences that other people have, and we may not always need to follow what we're hearing, but we should always be receptive enough and respectful enough that people feel comfortable coming with their suggestions to where we're going to ensure that we take the best and we instill it in our children so that they have the greatest opportunity, whether it be on the academic or the extracurricular side for our school district. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now ready to move on to question 4. Mr. Martinez, you will be starting off. Question 4. How will you represent the voice of our community and be inclusive of those you may not personally agree with?
Thank you. So, I think the best way to do that is just respect. So, you cannot always agree with everybody. And I've learned that throughout my years of coaching, through my years in the military, through my years of traveling. I've traveled to over 40 countries, to different cultures, to different ethnicities, different languages, and you're always going to find people who are different. And you can always find something that you can agree with or something you have in common. So you're definitely going to always, you can never agree with somebody 100%, but you can always find a common ground. So that is the key, is being able to find calmness, find, being able to hold yourself to a level of, being able to make your family proud, make your community proud, make the people around you proud. So if you're going to have the title of a trustee, you're going to have to know that people are watching. And so hopefully, if I am chosen and elected, I will make not only my children, my wife, and the whole community proud of our school district.
Thank you. Mr. Kading, same question. How will you represent the voice of our community and be inclusive of those you may not personally agree with?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm a pretty friendly guy, for the most part. And there's many times that I think I do disagree with people. I tend to disagree, and I can be opinionated at times, but I am inclusive of others' opinions, and I would never shut anyone down at the board. But I must say this, I'm a guy that speaks from the heart, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking. There's never going to be anything in my mind that I'll hold back. I'll be truthful and tell you the truth. And if there's stuff that's being talked about that I don't agree with, I'm going to let my fellow board members know, and I'll say it in a nice way, and I'll be inclusive and let them speak. But I'll truly tell them, hey, I don't agree with that idea, and I think we need to go this route. And I think what you said was really true, is that there has to be some common ground too. Because if you're just a bull on the board, people are going to say, that guy's crazy. They're going to like that guy. So I won't be that kind of a guy either. I'll be a guy that's truthful, pretty opinionated in my ideas, but a person that can work with others so that we come to an agreement where we get work done. And listen, I mean, I'm a DA agent. I deal with a lot of adversity, and mostly not in the street. It's mostly from the people I work with and my supervisors, because they're not so smart. But anyway, as That's another point. But with that said, I was just joking. I let them know what's going on too, and I'll tell them how I feel, because I think if we're honest and open, work gets done. So that's that.
Thank you. Mr. Duran, same question. How will you represent the voice of our community and be inclusive of those you may not personally agree with?
I think my work experience dealing with international people has really helped me learn how to be patient and listen to others. I've been working with people from Romania, from India, from Mexico, from across all the United States. There are so many different opinions, so many different ways of getting things done. So I try not to pass judgment. I try to listen and try to get all the ideas together, make sure I understand what the ideas are, and then come up with a solution that we can talk about, have options about. And I think that's what we need to do here as a community. Make sure people feel they're free to come to us, talk to us, let us know what's wrong, what's going on in the community, and we can give that feedback to make sure they're all inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harrigan, same question. How will you represent the voice of our community and be inclusive of those you may not personally agree with?
So like most groups, once you hit a certain amount of people, there's going to be difference of opinion and things like that. So, and it's extremely important for other people to bring a different set of viewpoints to the table, because we're not going to agree 100% on everything, but we do obviously need to move forward, make decisions that's in the best interest of our district. And I do have experience in my job as a liaison, and part of that being tasked with, representing my agency to interface with another company or agency, and, a lot of the time you have your needs, they have theirs, and you have to meet in the middle. So, again, it's boring when everyone feels the same way, thinks the same way. We need that, difference in viewpoint to come to a great decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schneider, same. Mr. Schneider, same. My microphone's off. I'm just going to pause. Mr. Schneider, same question. How will you represent the voice of our community and be inclusive of those who may not personally agree with?
Thank you. When I sat on the town board, we brought up some pretty controversial policies, from a reassessment to bonding issues. We had a lot of feedback from the public, and the one thing I always came back to was using the one word of civility. We just need to maintain our civility in our discussions. We may have differences of opinion, but I believe the more that we talk about underlying facts and circumstances, the more we're able to get understanding. And sometimes a disagreement isn't really a disagreement, it's just a misunderstanding. So the more that we're able to speak openly and speak in a civil manner, where we can express our thoughts, maybe our beliefs, our ideologies, and why we feel one way, it may sway someone's opinion, or that other person may sway your opinion. But allowing people to feel comfortable in having an open dialogue, expressing what their ideas are in a non-threatening manner, are some of the greatest ways that we'd be able to gain progress, work with each other, and have a more coexistent community. While we're never going to agree on 100% of everything, we should always be able to maintain everyone's dignity in each conversation and allow people to speak openly without feeling threatened. So I will ensure that if elected to the board, I do as I've done historically and try to maintain good decorum with civility, where people don't feel threatened and people are able to express their opinions in a manner that doesn't get them in a defensive position. When someone gets defensive, sometimes the civility goes away, so never want to put someone in that position. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Savino, same question. How will you represent the voice of our community and be inclusive of those who may not personally agree with?
I'm hoping the microphone will be my friend this time. So, the simple way to answer that question is, regardless of your personal opinion, your personal stance on things, at the end of this, it's what's best for the kids. That's the only way to go about it. What's best for the kids and best for the community. How do we go about that? We could do better with communication, sitting down, talking about the topics, talking about the ideas, and work towards a compromise. Everybody in this community has their kids' best interests at heart. And it's evident in all of your actions. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. We may not agree on things, but at the end of it, we all have the same goal. It's about the kids. It's about the community. It's about their future. My goal is, my promise is to continue to open those lines of communication, to sit down with everyone as I have for the past 3 years, and do what I can to make those changes in policy, which is the best interest of the kids, the curriculum, the education, in the ways that we can affect that, and support the staff who deliver that message. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the battery stuff. We're now moving on to question number 5. Mr. Keenan, you will start off. Special education is critically important in the Mahopac Central School District since it encompasses almost 20% of our students. How would you ensure that the students are given the proper support for their success? The choice of speaking to elementary, secondary, or both is yours to make.
Say the last part again?
How would you ensure that the students are given the proper support for their success? The choice of speaking to elementary, secondary, or both is yours to make.
I mean, special education is super important. I didn't realize it was 20%, so I imagine that's looking at our budget. I looked at the budget today, and 101 pages is quite long. And, special education, I think we need to put a lot of money into special education, because those kids are going to need extra help. That's going to take extra money. So I think most of our budget should be put into teachers that are teaching our kids, so they're taught properly. And that's the same thing for the special education program. That, we fund it properly, and that we give all of our teachers in special education the support they need, with teacher support, teachers' aides and things like that, so that there's not numerous kids in the class where they don't have enough teachers' aides and help to educate those kids that need that extra help. I also think, just because of the society we live in and being inclusive, we also want to make sure that, we do this in a manner where we don't kind of single out those students that are special ed, where they're kind of outcasts. They're like, oh, that's a special ed kid. We have to be very careful on how we, put those classes together so that those kids feel like they're part of the, whole school, and they're not outcasts, or they're not, the same as the other kids in school. I think that's another very important thing we need to do, because these are very, they're very important issues where these kids need to learn and have a safe environment to learn, where they're not being picked on by maybe some other students that may be a little aggressive or something because of their learning disabilities. So I think in that respect, we have to be very cognizant of that and make sure that we fund it properly, we get our teachers best prepared, and also, and that's basically it.
Thank you. Mr. Duran, same question. Special education is critically important in the Mahopac Central School District since it encompasses almost 20% of our students. How would you ensure that the students are given the proper support for their success? The choice of speaking to elementary, secondary, or both is yours to make.
Thank you. I believe special ed is really important for our Mahopac education, because we have to make sure we service all the kids here, no matter what their background is and what educations they need. We have to make sure we support every single program. But my understanding that the special ed program currently is one of the best about it. So I think they're doing a great job. I see that there's a lot of events. I see there's a lot of awareness going out right now. So I'm very impressed with that. And anything I can do as a board member to continue that, I would like to do. But some things that maybe I would like to discuss would be maybe trying to spend the money within the district instead of out of district, finding out what programs we can do to try to save some money. Make sure we're monitoring those coming in and out of the program, to make sure we can adjust our programs accordingly if we're spending our dollars wisely. To make sure we're monitoring the different programs, to make sure we're meeting the current needs. So we want to make sure, do we even have to build new programs? That's something we should always be on the table and discuss. And I want to make sure that any parent that believes that their child is not being heard because of their disability, come forward to the board. Let us know what you think. We want to be here. Going back to communication, let's talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harrigan, same question. Special education is critically important in the Mahopac Central School District since it encompasses almost 20% of our students. How would you ensure that the students are given the proper support for their success? The choice of speaking to elementary, secondary, or both is yours to make.
So I guess we hit a lot of the topics already, but I would speak to what I've experienced with would be the elementary special education, and just relate that when my son he wasn't even in kindergarten yet, and we had him at a daycare here in town, and the daycare said, hey, the school wants to come in and do an assessment. And my wife and I were baffled. We said, well, he's not in the school yet. How are you going to do, what are we, what's with the assessment? They said, no, well, we want him to be prepared for when he gets to kindergarten. And I thought that was amazing. It kind of just blows away. It's like he's not even in school yet, and they're worried about him getting on track. So thank you so much for that. Again, what most people are saying, I would just, ensure that those IEPs and the programs that the kids are getting, that there's a continual review to see if they still need it, or if there's other areas that might be identified, or if there's, if it's a need that's not necessary anymore, then they come off services. So that's what I would go with, identifying the needs early and then having that continual process to reevaluate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schneider, same question. Special education is critically important to the Mahopac Central School District since it encompasses almost 20% of our students. How would you ensure that the students are given the proper support for their success? The choice of speaking to elementary, secondary, or both is yours to make.
I appreciate the opportunity to answer this question. I have a lot of first-hand experience with 504s, IEPs, CSE meetings, all the stuff that 80% of parents don't know about. I've seen where we've been able to have teams that work together to come up with simple solutions in relation to assignments, communication. The one thing that has always gotten me, and Ben, your wife, was amazing in my CSE meeting, when she asked, what can we do to help? That was the first time in dozens of meetings that I've ever been to where I was asked, what can we do to help? And I feel that's really the first and important, probably the most important thing that we should be portraying as a school district, is we're here to help. We're here to work together as a community. We're here to solve the issues that we need to have addressed. Early intervention is one of the best ways that we can do that. And to have faculty that ask, what can we do to help, is one of the most inviting sounds that a special needs parent and family can hear, because it really does show that we're there to work together as a team for the best of what's for our children. Unfortunately, I haven't had that experience nearly as much as I'd like to, and I've tried the communication through multiple streams with multiple administrators, with multiple board members, and I get crickets. So my vow is that you'll never get crickets when you reach out to me. You'll never hear a soft response of, we received your communication, thank you. You'll hear what's happening, you'll hear what's going on, and you'll hear why things may be done, and you'll hear me say, what can we do to help? Because that is what we're here for, to help each other as a board member. That should be our only obligation, is what can we do to help the children, families, our community in general. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Savino, same question. Special education is critically important to the Mahopac Central School District since it encompasses almost 20% of our students. How would you ensure that the students are given the proper support for their success? The choice of speaking to elementary, secondary, or both is yours to make.
We have some amazing programs here in the district. We have the Falls Academy, the High School Academy. We have different programs at different elementary schools. How would I support that? First and foremost, the parents need to be involved, as Mr. Schneider touched on. We need to make sure that they have the proper staffing, the proper support for the kids. Some kids need more than others. We need to make sure that we address those concerns, that they have the staffing and the resources available. Special needs individuals lost more than most during check-ins on them, make sure that they have what they need to be brought back up, trying to make up for the deficits. If we need to be there for the kids, so however the board can support them, we will, and that is a promise. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, same question. Special education is critically important to the Mahopac Central School District since it encompasses almost 20% of our students. How would you ensure that the students are given the proper support for their success? The choice of speaking to elementary, secondary, or both is yours to make.
Thank you. I just want to say, Mark saw me write down early intervention, so I'm not stealing Jonathan's and everybody else's ideas. I think obviously early intervention from portions I've taken about psychology is key. So the more investment you can take or make in pre-K and kindergarten the earliest possible, the more results we're going to see in our students towards the end. And it's a large spectrum. When we say special needs, it's not just a small. I think the misperception is that it's huge, right? I mean, you talk, just something small, just dyslexia can, cripple a child's learning to something where they're nonverbal. It's just such a large spectrum. So I think that's the part where the parents need to have that, critical communication with the schools. And like Schneider said, we have had awesome experiences with the school district. So yeah, we have nothing but good things to say as far as our experiences that we've gone through so far. But it doesn't mean it can't get better. It doesn't mean we can't improve. Just because you're happy with something, why settle? Let's keep working on it. What can we do better? And how can we just make sure, like Mr. Spina said, COVID was hard. It was hard on everybody, but it was specifically hard with those with special needs. So yeah, let's get to work.
Thank you. We are now ready to move on to question 6, our final question. Mr. Duran will be leading off. Question 6. What do you feel are the most important responsibilities and or financial goals facing the Board of Ed over the next 3 years?
Obviously, the easy answer is going to be the budget. Everybody's being worried about it every year. And like I said before, one thing I want to do is start doing a deep dive into things we can control. Try to find ways to save money. But make sure that the money we're spending is being spent fairly. Making sure there's no favoritism. Making sure that we're making sure our classrooms are up to par. Get them to where we want them to be, to the kids are learning. So those are the things that we need to concentrate on. Make our schools even better than they are right now. Like I mentioned before, when I first came up here 20 years ago, the first thing I heard around here was blue ribbon, blue ribbon. I'd like to get back to that. Let's get to that high standard. Let's get back to higher rankings in World and News Report. Let's push ourselves. Let's push the superintendents, the teachers, even the parents. We need to all come together, push our students to do great things. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harrigan, same question. What do you feel are the most important responsibilities and or financial goals facing the Board of Ed over the next 3 years?
Yeah, I think the taxes are a big concern for a lot of people. The town school taxes just continually go up, and we're seeing that our money is not purchasing as much as it used to in the past. So I know a lot of people are going to be motivated to talk about the budget vote that's coming up next week. I know a lot of people are looking at their tax assessment that came back, and they're not happy. I think there's a lot of things that we should be looking at the budget, and I know it's complex, and we need to rethink what we're spending money on, if we need to spend that money, and then other things that possibly we could cut out or phase out over time in order to save money, because that's on a lot of people's minds right now. So that is probably our #1 financial goal for the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schneider, same question. What do you feel are the most important responsibilities and/or financial goals facing the Board of Education over the next 3 years?
Thank you. It's a great question. I speak with a lot of the residents in relation to finances and taxes, and was pretty instrumental in relation to the reassessment. So while we all get our assessments, we would all be very happy to get that number as our selling price on our house, which most of us would probably do. By the way, if you haven't gotten your assessment, look at it, check it out. If you feel you could not sell your house for that number, go over to the assessor's office and challenge it and say why you can't, because that will help with your personal taxes. It's all about what your home is valued at. In relation to a budget, I can't remember the last time I saw any municipal budget decrease. So I'm not going to give any false expectations. What I will do is I'll ensure that we are able to ensure that our children get the greatest education that they can be afforded for the price per capita that we pay for each one of our students. I want to ensure that the services that we deliver are delivered in an efficient manner. So we will definitely look at budgets. I've looked at many budgets before and worked on ensuring that they're as trim as possible without cutting or sacrificing the service. Because in the end, that really is the greatest priority that we should have year after year, is ensuring that our children are going to be on the right foot to being the most productive members of our adult society as we can hope to give them. And that has to start at the beginning when they're in their early childhood years. We have to encourage them to expand their horizons, to look past just the basics that we normally teach. We want our children to get into extracurriculars, to look at STEAM objectives, to start coding in elementary school, to start doing all of these other things, and then ensure that when they do become adults, that they're able to survive on their own. They're able to understand things on their own. And again, back to that financial class, it's just it should be mandatory where kids can feel comfortable going out into the real world, whether it's as a college student, as a vocational student, going into the military, or volunteering, whatever it may be. It should be comfortable enough that they're set financially with enough knowledge to survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spino, same question. What do you feel are the most important responsibilities and/or financial goals facing the Board of Education over the next 3 years?
As a trustee, we have a responsibility to be a voice for the community and voice for the children. We need to put the children first and foremost. That's why we're here. On the financial side, we need to work towards avoiding financial debt. There's many conversations about what to do with the aid monies, this and that. We have to be careful how we spend it, where we spend it within the guidelines. And we need to make sure that the money goes where it's best benefits the kids. So the number may be high. We want to be the best school district. We want to be the leaders. We want to be the innovators. We need to attract the best teachers. We need to attract the best aides. We need to attract the best of the best to our district to make it the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, same question. What do you feel are the most important responsibilities and/or financial goals facing the Board of Education over the next 3 years?
Thank you. So I think what's going to be affected is obviously inflation is hitting everybody, the supply chain. So they're trying to get products, trying to get supplies, healthcare costs is rising. So all of these factors, it makes it for a very difficult situation. Luckily, it's a board of 9. It's not like I have to come and find the solution. It's coming in and helping and bringing my expertise and bringing my experience, which in the Air Force, we always try to spend smarter, not putting down any other branches. But we come in and we say, how can we spend something and do it once and it'll last longer? So hopefully, if I am chosen, is coming in and spend to where we invest correctly, invest smartly, so that the budget that we are responsible for and it's the community's money goes to the right places. Like Ms. Serena said, it is for the children, but it's our hard-earned money. It should be spent wisely and it should last, for years to come.
Thank you. Mr. Caden, same question. What do you feel are the most important responsibilities and/or financial goals facing the Board of Education over the next 3 years?
I think the most important responsibility is to be fiscally responsible. I mean, like, I looked at that budget. I mean, I don't think it's sustainable. If we're gonna, increase our budget $6 million, $6 million every year, I don't know if I can afford Manpack in the next couple of years. I was talking to a friend of mine, when he first moved to Manpack in 1997 or 98 or whatever it was, he was paying like $7,000. I know it's different times, economy changes, but I mean, like, his taxes, way over double. So the point is, I think we have to be really smart and look at the money. Look, I worked for the government. I worked for the government for 24 years. We waste a lot of money. That I know. Because I've been in the government for 24 years and I see it with my own eyes. Now, I'm not saying that happens for Manpack, but if elected on the board, I would really look at that, especially with the other 8 members. And we have to be fiscally responsible and look at it. Like, I was looking at that budget, and I think there's things in there that are hidden. Like, we're spending a lot of money on administrative stuff where more of that money needs to go towards different things, like special education, teachers, and things like that. I think we need to really look at that budget and reconsider that budget, in my opinion. And working with the board of elected, maybe spend our money a little more wisely than maybe that budget proposes at this particular time. So with that said, I think, I think we really should be fiscally responsible and maybe take another look at that budget.
Thank you. That concludes our question and answer session. We are now ready to give each candidate an opportunity to make a closing statement. Each candidate will have a maximum of 2 minutes to do so. Mr. Harrigan, you are up first with your closing statement.
Thank you. Just wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And those tuning in at home too, thank you. Thank you for putting this on again. So these are our schools, right? We live here. Our children go to school here, and our taxes provide the funding for these schools. Our children learn, they play sports, and they form friendships here. We can create a great school environment for them. Parents and community members, if you're like me, you don't want Albany to have more and more power over our schools, you need to stop feeling helpless and get involved. We need to hear your voices. Parents don't have a union or a lobbying group with millions of dollars at their disposal that they can exert influence. The past 2 years, many of our elected representatives told us there was nothing they could do to help us with school mandates. The parents knew, we knew that lockdowns, remote learning, and masks were negatively affecting our children, but no one wanted to help or advocate for them. I've spent the last year doing as much as I could to get kids back on track and get them back to a normal school experience. And if elected to the board, I will continue to fight for our children. Thank you, and please vote May 17th.
Thank you. Mr. Schneider, it is now your turn for a 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you so much for hosting this forum, and thank you for the people who participated with questions. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for those watching. Involvement, it's an important thing. It's something that I've dedicated my adult life to, is being involved in my children's lives, being involved in my community, being involved in the decision-making that does happen. I'm proud of my track record. I'm proud of the way that I try to conduct myself, and I'm proud of the way that I see a lot of us able to have discussions where we make different opinions. I always appreciate the ability to listen to people and learn from people, and I want to ensure that everyone feels that they have the ability to be heard, as opposed to being shut down or being silenced or getting no response at all. That to me is one of the least respectful things that we could do to one another, is not give responses when we're asked things. I saw it earlier today when someone was asking about a budget. No answer was given until the end, and then it was really more of a, here's a generalized answer. I did see one board member go out and give more of a formal answer. I want that to be public. I want us to be able to know what's happening. I want us to have transparency. I want us to have agendas for what's happening in our work sessions. So parents can be involved, community members can be involved, people can see what's going on. It's a very large budget, $133+ million. And there's really little talk other than how difficult it's going to be to pay our school taxes. I think that we need to really dive deep into what we're looking for and how we deliver the services here in our community. Very proud, again, of my track record, dealing with large budgets, dealing with union contracts, and I would try to deliver the exact same services that I've done previously for our community, and I will do it with open door policy where I am easily reached and I am receptive to people's ideas, concerns, and I thank you for your time. Please get out May 17th vote.
Thank you. Mr. Savino, you are up next with a 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out, for hosting it, and those watching this on the live. Our schools are here to serve the educational, social, and emotional needs of our children. In order to be successful with this, we need to come together, regardless of our personal views, to develop the best solutions, the best policies, and the best chances for our children. I welcome community input through town halls, committees, forums, and simple conversations. One of the key charges for a school board is to create long-term vision, which maps a course that provides the necessary opportunities students need to go beyond their full potential. The board is responsible for establishing policies that maintain a collaborative structure that supports the growth of our students and their vision, empowers staff, provides leadership, and promotes stability and value. We must work to reestablish morale amongst all district employees and listen when they share. Our community has united through the pandemic. Our students are part of history, and through our tremendous teachers and staff's efforts, our children have demonstrated resilience. We must lend emotional support to all that walk amongst our buildings, as we deserve to have harmony throughout our district. Our children deserve it. After all, our children are still healing. As a board member, I value enhancing and enriching our environment. I value each and every community member. Together, we can ensure that we create an environment where students, parents, teachers, and staff feel that they are welcome and that they belong. Again, it's about our children, and they deserve our support and our efforts. They deserve the difference we can make. They are our prized possessions, and their future depends on the choices we make, the visions we see, the structures we create, and the chances we grant them. As a board member, I cherish being part of their future and being part of the difference made for them today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, you are up next with a 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank the PTO for hosting. Everybody for taking the time to be here tonight and for everybody online. I'd like to acknowledge the other candidates here as well tonight. And say if I'm elected, I'm confident to work with the other 2 gentlemen who are also chosen, and as well as the other sitting board members. In the end, we all care about this community, our schools, and our families. And we have stepped into this arena to make a positive impact. First and foremost, I'm a dad. My family is always my focus, as I know is true for all of you. I believe all of our children can truly flourish in this district, whatever their interests or abilities. I know that the arts and music programs in our schools have inspired and nurtured both of my children. I don't know if that would have happened in another district, and I am grateful that they are here. As a soccer coach, I know that each player has different strengths. My philosophy is to develop each one to their full potential and set them up for success on the field and in life. I believe that whatever their skill set, it is possible to allow each player to shine in their own way, and I believe that the same can be done in our schools. As we emerge from the pandemic, protocols and restrictions, I am keenly aware that different families have different concerns regarding how the district moves forward. I believe that it is possible to hear and understand the concerns of all families, to address the wide and diverse needs of all of our students, to have a positive community engagement and discussion, and to remember that our children, the students of our Impact schools, should always be our #1 priority. I hope I have earned your vote and your respect, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Kaden, you are up next with a 2-minute
to the board. Well, first of all, thank you PTO, parents and teachers, for having this. It was enjoyable, and it was good to know some of the candidates I didn't know. And I just want to say that, listen, if I'm the guy that you vote for, I'm just telling you, I'm a practical guy. I'm a no-nonsense guy. I'm kind of in-your-face kind of guy, but in a nice way, never in a mean way. As Mr. Schneider said, I think, shutting people down is probably not a great idea. And I won't be that kind of guy, but I'll tell you this, I'll be the guy that fights for the parents. I'll be the guy that fights for the teachers too, because the teachers are doing a great job. We need to step it up and give the teachers what they deserve. And I just want you to know that vote for Mark Caton, because Cadan's the man with the plan. So if you want to make sure that Albany doesn't get in your kid's life and tell them what they think, tell them what to think, then I'm your guy. But if you like that kind of stuff and you like Marxism, I ain't your guy. So I just tell you, I'm here for America. I'm here to say to our teachers, teach our kids math, science, literature. Teach them that stuff. Let's stay away from the CRT and DEI stuff. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Duran, you're up next with a 2-minute closing statement.
I would like to thank the PTO for hosting all the candidates and all of those in attendance and those on the live stream. I'd like to say thank you to all the candidates coming out and sharing their views. I was very enlightened by a lot of the stuff. It's great to know that so many in the community are taking interest in our students' future. So it's great that we continue doing this every year. I like it better in person rather than Zoom last year. I'd like to be on the board because I want to make sure everyone, especially our students, are heard and that we're taking steps to address the issues that they are facing. We need to make sure all our kids are getting a quality education. Students need to know they have options, whether they want to be in the trade or entrepreneurship or in college, whatever it is, that they can make their own future. But they have to take advantage of the programs that we do have. BOCES has a great Youth Vision program. We have the Putnam Youth Court. We need to leverage those things and get the kids out there. I would like to see our schools get back to the blue ribbon, like I mentioned before, that attracted me 20 years ago. Let's set that bar high for ourselves. I believe my educational, professional, community service background, along with my common sense, will serve me well on the board. And I believe in an open door policy for the public. My career has trained me to ask tough questions, to make sure the answers make sense, and that we can always bring different options to the table. I have no hidden agenda. I will work hard and be fair. I would like an opportunity to make a difference that will benefit our entire community. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you so very much to the candidates for participating in this event and to the community for joining us tonight. Please remember that the 2022-2023 candidate election will be held in person along with the budget vote in the Mahopac High School Gymnasium on Tuesday, May 17th from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Please exercise your right to vote. Candidates will be available for a short amount of time should anyone wish to chat with them further. Have a safe night.